Hello everybody, my name is Idiotic Synergy, and one simple question for you all that I'm hopefully going to answer. What happened to mech guns? Because they're better, but does that mean they're more fun to play? And in my opinion, no. Just because something is better, it doesn't necessarily make it more fun to play. For example, I'm going to talk predominantly about the Bubble Chucker. Now, the Bubble Chucker is a quote-unquote random gun, which we'll get into that in a minute, which you roll 1d3, and then you get to use that profile. So if you roll a 1 or a 2, you get the big bubble, which is heavy D3, heavy 3d3, so minimum 3 shots, maximum 9, at strength 6, AP minus 2, damage 1. Or you get the wobbly bubble, which is heavy d6, strength 8, AP minus 3, damage 3. Or the dense bubble, which is only 1 shot, but strength 10, AP minus 4, and damage is d3 plus 3. Now, some of you might call it a random gun because you can't reliably get the same profile twice, but it's not impossible to get the same profile twice. This one, however, the old, probably the best gun in the game for 8, it was just, there was no way of getting the same weapon profile twice unless you were incredibly lucky. So the Bubble Chucker for 8 was heavy d6, strength d6, AP d6, and damage d6. Now, yes, it struggled against tanks and anything over toughness 6 or toughness 5. I'd say that, but it just depends how you roll. Even the person using the Bubble Chucker couldn't reliably use the gun. It was one of those things where you saw on the board and you knew you were going to have a great time fighting against it because your opponent didn't even know how it would work. Because it was possible to get 6 shots of strength 1, AP minus 5, damage 1. That happened to me once, and that was the funniest thing ever. Because the guy made 2 wounds, and because it went straight in, because it was AP minus 5, but only did 1 damage, so I just had a tank and it just went straight through for 2 damage. It's one of those guns where you see and it's quite fun. And it fits with what orcs are. Orcs are supposed to be dumb, but ingenious when it comes to technology. And the Bubble Chucker managed to feel like a proper orc weapon. Now it just feels like if a Space Marine or the Imperial Guard had a weapon like this and they, I don't know, named it the Imperium Cannon or something, or maybe the AdMech, and it had these weapon profiles, it wouldn't feel out of place. This gun felt like an orc gun that would only work for orcs. And that was really fun to see. And now with the new Bubble Chucker, it feels like it was streamlined. And I understand why, because 40k became a bit more competitive. But as someone that just likes fucking around with 40k, and I don't really play tournaments because I run Nurgle Demons and I like having fun with the hobby more so than actually being competitive and treating this game like 5 heart attacks in 1, it feels off that the orcs would have set weapon profiles for the Bubble Chucker. The other gun that I have an issue with is the Smasher gun. Now, it's heavy D3, strength 8, AP minus 4, damage D6, and it's much the same. It's heavy D6, strength AP minus 4, damage D6. But the way that it worked would be you roll 2d6, and then and if the result is equal or greater than the target's toughness, the attack successfully wounds. That was a really interesting way of doing wound rolls, because you would fire at a tank, and then you would try to get a 8 out of 2d6, and once that happened, it felt really good. Instead of just rolling, say, a 4, you would have to roll 2d6, and it was one of those guns where you could reliably use against infantry, and it was kind of a risk to use against tanks, but if you got that off, then it felt great to use. It had that really satisfying, it was really satisfying to use, because if you fired that against a tank and then you got really good damage on it, say you rolled 3 and then you rolled 3d6, you could shred any tank pretty much. And that was a really good feeling to have. Now it's like, oh, you roll a 4. It's streamlined. It feels streamlined. And the other gun that I noticed a slight change is the tractor cannon. Now, the tractor cannon is probably the best one to bring if you're bringing mech guns now, because against aircraft units, you add 2 to that attack's hit roll, so you're now hitting on 2s. But even against non-aircraft unit, you hit on 3s, and if you're aiming against a vehicle unit that can fly, then the damage characteristic is d6 plus 3, which again sounds really good. But then you look at the old one, and it works ever so slightly different. You see, it had a set profile, so strength 8, AP minus 2, damage d6, same here. Oh, sorry, d3 plus 3. And that's something I noticed as well. So even if you roll poorly, you'll still get 4 wounds when this gun sort of punished you if you rolled badly, if that made sense. So using these orc weapons would have a greater risk-reward quality to them. And now that's sort of gone. But anyway, the only other example I can think of when it comes to orc units is the Stomper Gatling gun. The new one you can reliably shoot once and get 16 shots, but the old 8th edition Gatling gun, it was 3d6, and then you could then try and fire again on a 2, and then you could fire for a 3rd time on a 5 or 6, I think it went. On a 4, 5 or 6. I don't remember off the top of my head, sadly. But again, it was risk-reward, and if you manage to get... but if you manage to roll under the result you need, you couldn't use the gun for the rest of the game. But if you got to fire that Gatling gun all 3 times, and you rolled pretty high, that was an incredible gun to have. Yes, you'd be hitting on 5s, but you would have a lot of dice. Anyway, so the new tractor gun, once you hit, and if you hit a flying unit, you would roll 2 dice, and then you picked the highest result. But if you shot down the enemy flying vehicle, the model automatically crashes and burns. Basically means it detonates. And from a lore point of view, that was quite interesting. From like a narrative point of view, that was really fun to have. From a competitive point of view, I don't think that anyone actually cared, because flyers would just fly over everything. But if you went first and shot that down, and it crashed and burned, and it was near troops within 3 inches or 6 inches, then all the troops and everyone around it would get D3 mortal wounds, which was quite fun. But again, it was sort of risky to do, and most likely you wouldn't get that done. But once you did, it felt great. Now it just feels like a safe choice. And that's why I made this video, because I think mech guns have lost a lot of their own personality now. I do think mech guns for orcs have lost a lot of personality and have become streamlined. They're not bad guns by any stretch of the imagination, but because everything's more competitive, it feels like they've traded that in for the personality, which I'm not really a fan of. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble. This video probably won't get anywhere, but I just wanted to let off some steam. So, I've been Idiotic Synergy, and yeah, you can subscribe, you can like the video. I've got a Ko-fi where I occasionally write Warhammer stories. And I'll see you next time. Also, happy Father's Day to any fathers out there that probably don't know their fathers yet.